Has he popped in yet or no?
Has he popped in yet? Yeah, he's been here all day. He's
Oh,
just kind of
okay.
like poking in all day.
Just seeing when we're ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I just I just did yesterday I just did one of the Rimby love letters and he channeled one, so
Hmm.
he's been waiting.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry, man. We were trying to get accustomed to this. It's all new to us. It's probably new to you too.
He says it's not really new. He's been in this position before,
Yeah, no, I get that.
and he says not a lot of people will admit their nerves when they do something like this with
Bro,
somebody
I'm
new.
so nervous. I'm so nervous.
He's laughing. He's laughing.
Uh,
Like, I got all the time in the world, so take your time.
okay, good, good, good. Okay. Um, I have a ton of thought-provoking questions, but I want to kind of like ease into it.
So what are we doing today, Ireland, though? Maybe we should introduce it just in case we actually make this our virgin run on a podcast.
Oh, okay. So what are we doing? We're talking to Spirit. We're interviewing Spirit.
And
And who are we
seeing
interviewing?
Matthew Perry.
Exactly. So kind of a big deal around
Backstory,
here.
backstory, Kim, the Kim part of the duo, Kim and Ireland needed to practice in other ways instead of just being a solo. And
Hmm.
Ireland said, I'll help you. And so Ireland's helping. And the first one on deck was Matthew.
And someone else who will be coming really soon. Not to just to tease a little bit.
Tease a little bit. Okay. Nothing
You
like dead
ready?
air. Nothing like dead air.
All right. Okay, I'm nervous. I don't know what to start with. Okay, let
He
me
said,
think.
start with the easiest.
Okay, bro, you know, want to do the easiest question that I have in mind
He's like,
to
yeah,
roll into
bro.
it?
Yeah, bro. He says, yeah,
Okay,
bro.
sorry, sorry. Should I be more professional than this? I feel like I
No.
should.
He says,
Okay,
please don't be professional. He says it just takes the fun out of it.
okay,
He
okay,
says,
dude.
he says,
What?
sorry for interrupting. He said that
No, you're good.
this kind of stuff is supposed to be like using your, what they call an inner child to play with. Like
Oh
it's
yeah,
supposed to be
yeah.
fun. And he says, like, that's the best way to connect is through fun and joking and casual. And
Hmm.
yeah,
Okay, no, I like that. Okay, so we're gonna start really like inter how I'm gonna go about this. Like, you meet a new classmate and you've never spoken before, and you're just gonna be like, okay, what's your favorite color?
he's thinking, he says he really liked blue when he was
Uh-huh.
alive, but there are colors that where he is now where he couldn't even describe to you.
Hmm.
It's like a rainbow combined in the most beautiful blue with sparkles and waves and sound all intertwined into one big color that can't even be named. It's like you put all the oceans together, the Caribbean, the Pacific, the Atlantic, the like Greece, Mediterranean, all that stuff into one
Hmm.
blue, but then within that color there's like sparkles and mists
Hmm.
and sound. Like there's sound with color that he can't even describe. And humans think they've come close to the sound of color, but they really haven't. And that's what his favorite would be. And he could only experience that where he is now. But he's like typical boy in blue.
That's really interesting that he mentioned the ocean because when he was describing the like sparkles and the noise and the sound, I was just like the first thing that popped in my mind was like the ocean, the sea.
Hmm.
So that's very interesting. Okay, that's really cool though. I do, yeah, to experience like a color with all your senses must be incredible.
He says there's like absolutely no way to describe what experiencing everything with all of the senses is
Mhm.
like. He says, and part of my issue on earth was trying to dull my senses because
Mhm.
I could feel really big and didn't and felt like I had to compart
But,
compartmentalize all of
yeah.
that. And to be here and freely be immersed in senses is something that is just, it's like color, it's undefinable.
Mhm.
And he wishes that he had known how to use his senses when he
Mhm.
was alive in a better way, and the way he lived his life probably wouldn't have happened if he had realized how to use his sensory perception in a better way when he was alive.
Mhm.
He's deep.
Yeah. No, I can tell. I don't know why, but this like when he was talking, I was like a baby, like I'm saying like a lot. I do apologize. But
It's
when
okay.
a baby
Be
starts
you, Ireland, be you.
when when there's a newborn and they experience all those senses for the first time, it's not dampened or anything. It's like all of it at once. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, but also think of how he's saying compare like a baby or a toddler or a young kid that was
Hmm.
diagnosed with autism,
Oh
how
yeah.
extra sensory they are,
Hmm.
and times that by a million, and you wouldn't even scratch the surface of living with sensories in heaven is like.
And that's not overwhelming.
He says it was at first. He's saying it was
Hmm.
at first,
Yeah.
but then once you're like immersed in it, it's almost like you can't go back. He's saying that people that have the near death experiences just kind of touch that a little bit, and that's why
Hmm.
they don't want to go back, is because they're completely immersed in just the sensory of heaven. And when you
Hmm.
touch that,
Hmm.
you don't want to have that taken away when you return to earth with a near death experience.
Hmm. Cool. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, the vision of the vision of the baby was like came to mind, but then he was really talking about like children on the autism spectrum or just individuals with autism and how they like everything is hyper with that. And I think that was really
Hmm.
reflective. All right, so now we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. We're already like really deep.
He's saying that people with autism have come here. They've He says because you really choose your experience when you come here, and the people with
Mhm.
autism choose to try to experience that extrasensory perception or the overload, the sensory overload, to try
Mhm.
to create what they felt back in heaven and create that on earth. But it's so heavy on earth that it becomes just really, really overwhelming.
And does he think that with all neurodivergent people or just with autism with people with autism?
He says also people like with anxious personalities or ADHD and stuff,
Hmm.
it's just a different face to the same theme kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. All right, let's get into some complex questions. Or do you want to keep doing like, what do you think? What do you guys think?
He says whatever you want. He says he's having fun. He's like, this is like just a complete like let's go out for coffee kind of chat. And he says he's liking it already.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna just jump into it. I'm gonna actually get the questions that I have. Okay, let's just do one more fun one because this one. Okay, so
Was
I
these
put
were
a
these answers
perspective.
he's interrupting you and he's saying, were these answers fun? He says
No, it's just interesting to get another person's perspective of this.
he says, no, I'm having fun. Whatever the answers may be, he says he's having fun. He really likes to connect. He likes to connect better with people now than he ever did, especially at the end of his life. He found it
Hmm.
difficult to really connect with people, so he has fun doing
Hmm.
this kind of stuff.
Okay. Okay. So this one's a little bit silly, and I do apologize for it. But what do you think is the conspiracy with the most truth? Or what does he think? It could be any. Like, give me the most ridiculous answer you could possibly give me.
He's he says that conspiracy on any level is true.
Hmm.
Conspiracy is made up by, okay, he says scratch that. He says conspiracy
Okay.
is truth to where the maturity level, the spiritual, mental, emotional maturity level of the person is, the mental
Hmm.
maturity level. Um, he says there's been some great conspiracy. He really likes the archaeological conspiracies.
Okay.
Um, he says he likes how people really get surprised when there's something uncovered and they assume what it is to be true when it is really actually very different.
Hmm.
Um, he's he's having trouble naming one because there are so many truths out there
Hmm.
covered by conspiracy. So he
Hmm.
says, what conspiracy do you think is crazy?
Oh, I have so many. I love conspiracy theories. One of my favorites is Mothman. I really do appreciate it. And there's a whole town centered around this being, this cryptid. Um, so Mothman and oh,
He
what else?
said he's saying that Chris and Kim did a conversation about the Skinwalker Ranch, and he says
Yeah.
that's a crazy conspiracy, but that piece
Oh,
of land
100%.
is something special, and
Hmm.
he he actually says I think people should really experience that Skinwalker Ranch because there's some crazy shit that goes down there all the time, and some of it
Yeah.
isn't even like documented. He says if you could see the Skinwalker Ranch through his eyes, you'd be seeing a whole other world just on that land. You would see multiple
Hmm.
worlds just on that land.
No, that makes a real big sense because it's like almost like tearing the fabric
That piece of
of
land,
that ranch.
he says it's
Yeah.
interesting you say that because that piece of land is um, a torn piece of fabric in the structure
Hmm.
of Earth.
Hmm.
Um, it's Earth's fabric's been torn on the land, within the land, and within the sky, just in that area. So because of that tear, a lot is traveling in and out. He says the Bigfoot is a fun one.
Hmm. Yeah.
He says, but I don't believe that's conspiracy anymore. I think that that truth has been told, and you know people believe that, and because
Hmm.
it is true. He
Hmm.
says Bigfoot is actually, you know, a being that can, you know, walk in and out of Earth, back and forth through a doorway to their realms, and he
Hmm.
says that there's somebody that you have on deck that wants to talk about that kind of stuff more than what I ever could. And he says aliens are another conspiracy, but like I said, like conspiracy is actually truth. And the more mature people become and the more open people become, that truth is exposed and then accepted. So uh,
Hmm.
people are well on their way to accepting that conspiracy as truth.
Okay. I have a question about a certain conspiracy, and I don't know if people would be able to answer it. Um, but can I throw it out there?
You can throw it out there, but I don't want to get you guys in trouble, but I'll answer it the best I can.
Okay. So Does he know about the stairs in the woods?
Which ones?
Oh, that's crazy. That like appear like when you're usually they appear when you're trying to find a missing hiker or a lost child. They'll appear and you're told not to go up them or you'll never find the person. Like that's a conspiracy that I've always like wondered about. What does he think about
Oh
that?
my God. Like when you're talking about that, my tummy is getting full on butterflies.
Yeah.
He's like, it's true. It's
Okay.
true. Yeah. It's almost in a way kind of sad because he says that the missing person has already taken the staircase and it's
Mm-hmm.
just
Oh wow, okay.
the staircase telling you that they've already gone there and they won't be
Mm-hmm.
found. So
Mm-hmm.
if you see the staircase, it's kind of like you're being offered the opportunity to understand that they've ascended.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay.
He says that if you do see a staircase, the person, the physical aspect of the person is near, is
Okay,
around that
yeah, that's what I've
staircase.
that yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
Oh my
Okay.
God, he's saying, I want to be a little bit bad. He says, it's kind of like if you'll allow me to be
Mm-hmm.
morbid, he's kind of like, it's like kind of like a tombstone.
Oh, really? Okay. That's really interesting. Because there have been like many reports of the staircase, and there's one story that always creeps me out that it was like they were looking for a missing child, like a young girl, and um the one of the rangers found this staircase and he was a new employee. He was like a new ranger
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, I'm gonna go up the staircase because he didn't know what it was. And human beings, we have curiosity, like curiosity will kill the cat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he went up the staircase, and every time he like took a step, he felt more and more dread,
Mm, yeah.
almost. And then when he was finally like, this is too much for me, he got down and he met up with the other rangers in the search party. He was like, I found these weird stairs, and this older, more experienced ranger was like, did you go up them? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, we're not gonna find her.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
because they've already ascended the staircase.
yeah, that's super interesting. Like, yeah, but that's one of the conspiracy theories that I personally
He says, "Do again, do again."
do again. Okay, do
Is
one
there
more silly
another one? Is
question.
there another one? Is there another one?
Another like conspiracy theory or another question would you?
Yeah, shoot me. Shoot me with the, well, don't shoot me. You can't shoot me. Shoot me with another conspiracy.
Okay, I got you. Let's see. I have really silly ones that are just off, but let me see. I have a bunch here. Okay, there's a silly one while I try to find a real thonker. There are individuals who think that birds aren't real, that they're spies from the government. Has you heard of that before?
He's laughing. He was like shocked that you actually said that. He's like, for real.
Yeah. No, some people are like, no, birds are like drones sent from the government
No,
to
he
spy
says
on
that
us.
is absolutely false. That is
Yeah.
absolutely false. Birds are birds. They're messengers. There's like pigeons. He's showing me pigeons
Oh yeah, messenger birds.
messages,
And
but
we treat pigeons so badly, and they've
but
done so much for us.
he's like, nope, false.
I'm glad I could catch you off guard.
But he said, but do you see what I'm saying about how there's truth in some of the conspiracies because that came from the pigeons that would send messages in war.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. They were like little drones.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, here's a fun one. Okay. That Earth has been sucked into a black hole.
He says true.
Okay, let's get into that.
He says truth. He says it's true. Earth has been traveling through a black hole for many, many, many years.
Okay.
He says people also call it the Matrix, and
Okay.
um, Earth has to travel through the black hole to ascend to the next dimension. But, and I'm just getting dizzy as he's talking about this.
Okay, take it slow,
Um,
take it slow.
but he says, yes, it's true. Earth is traveling through a black hole to get to the other side, he's saying. But that's part of the ascension of Earth is to travel through the black hole, travel through the matrix. And
Hmm.
he says the black hole is just the hanged man turning right side up.
I got goosebumps when he said that. Oh,
He says, do you know the hanged man tarot card where it's upside down?
yeah.
Says it's just turning that card right side up. That's all it is.
Okay, that's really cool. Because part of the black hole theory is that the CERN discovered the Higgs boson, aka the God particle, in 2012. And what they think is that it inadvertently created a black hole and Earth was sucked into it. And what they believe is that the world actually ended in 2012 because of this black hole.
He says if you really want to get deep into it, he says every day the world is ending because every day it's changing.
Hmm.
So he says yes, in 2020, in 2012 there was a big change,
Hmm.
but there was also a big change in 1986. He says there was also a big change in 2000, in 2020, and he says there's a big change coming in 2027, 2028.
Ooh, that makes me nervous.
So you don't have to be nervous. He says people directly, when there's big change, they directly relate it to fear. He says there's nothing to fear because you're
Hmm.
living through it anyway. So, like, if hindsight's 2020, there's nothing to fear.
Hmm. Okay. Um, wow, that's kind of freaking me out a little bit, but that's okay. Does he want to continue with the conspiracy theories or does he want to go on to some other questions?
He says you lead.
Okay, let's go on to some other questions here, and I'll get into some real thinkers, if you will. Um, okay, I have one here. It's relationships. It's about relationships and emotions. But why do you
He's laughing. He's like
what? What do you mean? What do you mean?
he's like, yeah, he's like not my specialty, but continue.
Okay, no, we
No,
can
no,
change
no.
the subject. No,
He
no,
says,
no, we're
no, no,
good.
no. He's waving his hands. He's like stopping. He's like, no, no, no. I'm just kidding. It's like, but like, you do know how I died.
No, actually, not really. I never really was.
Oh, he overdosed on the drugs.
Of the drugs in the hot tub, right?
Yeah, on the hot tub.
Yeah, okay.
He did. He said he pulled a Whitney Houston.
Got it. Okay, gotcha, man.
But he says,
Okay,
ask, please ask. He says, please ask.
okay. So this question is, why do some people come into your life and leave a lasting impact even if they don't stay?
He says, well, they were the people with the greatest lesson for you.
Hmm.
And when you actually learn that lesson, you'll always remember them because they were the one that gave you that gift in the first place.
Hmm.
So he says it's actually very interesting that a lot of the time, the people with the biggest lessons in your life aren't meant to stay for your whole entire life. He
Yeah.
says people assume that the best relationships will always stay forever and ever, amen. But he says, actually, no, the people with the biggest lessons will drop those lessons.
Hmm.
You'll experience them, and then you'll
Yeah.
grow, and you'll grow out of that relationship onto the next experience.
Okay. But is there like a certain how do I frame this? Is there a reason why they can't stay per se?
He says it more has to do with growing and evolving,
Hmm.
and humans have trouble. He says he should change that. He's not an alien. He said people have trouble.
You were here too.
People have trouble using really healthy communication to work out the differences once one person has grown and the other has stayed.
I
So
feel
if
that. I feel that.
he says if people were to communicate more honestly, he said more
Hmm.
truthfully, more like authentically, then those relationships would have better staying power. But because one or the other has trouble communicating in a real honest way, he says that's what makes the relationships fall apart. Communication is, he says, communication is key to love.
I can 100% agree. And this world, I think, has a real big problem with communication and not enough of it. And I think if we had more communication in this world, I think a lot of our problems would not vanish, but it would hurt a little less.
He says he totally agrees with you, and he says that um, it's not just communication like the surface kind of, hi, how's your day been?
Hmm.
It's really, somebody, he says somebody pisses you off. You have to really, in a respectful way, tell them that they pissed you off and try to work that out. But
So
what
yeah, like
tend,
emotional communication.
yeah, what tends to happen is people don't speak up when they feel hurt, or that they've been disrespected, and they let
Hmm.
it fester. And then nowadays, he says it's easier to walk away than to actually have an honest communication and rebuild a relationship from a new platform.
Because yeah, it takes a lot of bravery. It's easy to walk away. It's really easy to walk away, but it takes a lot of strength and bravery to actually tell someone, hey, you kind of messed up,
Yep.
like I'm hurting.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. Hmm.
He's um he's saying that's probably one of the biggest things that he had problems with is I couldn't communicate how I was really feeling because I didn't want to hurt people, but
Hmm.
I ended up just hurting myself.
Yeah. No. No, I totally agree. Okay. Sorry, that got a little sad. I do apologize. Um, okay, let's keep
He
trucking
said
on.
he just said sad is just the other end of happy. They're all on the same line. So it's all good.
See, I think emotions, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but I think emotions like happiness, anger, sadness, are like a big circle, and they kind of just it always like rotates.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know why I wanted to bring that up, but
Everything that I experience now as a spirit is not on one long straight line. He's saying it's all within circles, it's all within spirals. The universe is based on the universe is, he's correcting himself, is all based
Mhm.
on circles and spirals and never linearity. So you're correct in that,
Mhm.
in seeing that, how emotions can be on a circle and not necessarily just a straight line.
A straight line. Yeah, because nothing is ever on a straight line. It's more technical and more what's the word? Uh, more evolved than a straight
Yeah,
line. Yeah.
even the sounding, he's like, even the sound of the word evolved is more round than line, which is more
Hmm.
straight.
100%. Alrighty, let's continue here. Sorry if I'm going too fast. I do apologize. I just have a lot of questions. Tell me if I'm going too fast, both of you. Just
No, no.
okay. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. So this question is revolves around the topic of society and ethics. Um, so I pose to you this: if technology could make everyone equal, would we still find ways to divide ourselves? And I'm going to answer this question first. Yes, I think human beings will always find a way to divide ourselves in classes and as equals. So, but what do you think? What do you guys think?
He says, "Are you interviewing Kim or are you interviewing me?" And he's laughing.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry.
He's
I do apologize.
he's laughing. You don't have to apologize. He's like, "I'm just kidding." He's like, "I'm picking on your nervousness." Um,
Thank you. Thank you.
he's, he
Okay.
says, he says, "If you don't mind, I'll take center stage." But he says,
Okay, calm down.
he uh, he says until spirit and science combine into one, um, there'll always be division with people.
Hmm.
It's too separate right now. Um,
Hmm.
he says there are races and worlds outside of the earth, like we talked about earlier with the ETs,
Hmm.
who have learned that, and they are complete societies where the energy of spirit and the energy of technology have come together into one. And that's
Hmm.
when things really start taking off. He
Hmm.
says they're trying to do that with AI,
Hmm.
but it's
Yes,
not quite
100%.
there and won't be there for quite some time because
Yes,
AI is
fair.
still creating a divide between people.
It is. It is. It's you see it every day on the news that how it is dividing people and um or classes. But yeah, I do apologize that I am talking to you, man. Don't worry.
He's he's shaking his head. He's like, "Don't worry, Ireland, you're
Oh,
great. You're great." He says, "I've been looking
okay.
forward to this for a while now."
Okay. But yeah, it's funny that you mentioned AI because we were talking about AI with another spirit or another individual. And how it, I'm gonna bring this up, but how it like kind of how spiritualists and mediums practice, but with AI, like how it's not, they're not actually talking to spirit, but they're talking to AI and saying it is with spirit.
Yes, that happens.
Yes. Hmm. And it probably happens all the time, more than we think. Hey.
With the creation of the AI tools within social media, it makes it easier for people to pass off these conversations with spirit as AI, and it's tough for people to tell. And he says he doesn't want to point any fingers, but it is a sad reality, and it does happen. He
Hmm.
says there's fraud in everything.
Hmm. Yeah. Okie dokie. Ooh. Okay. What? Okay. I'm gonna let him pick. Do you want to do personal growth and reflection, more society and ethics, relationships and emotions again, or existence and meaning?
He's like, "Oh my God, we could be here for hours," he's saying.
Yeah. I came
Mm.
prepared.
The meaning one? He's saying the meaning one?
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna start off with a really funky one. Okay. Is there more value in asking questions than in finding answers?
He's thinking.
Okay.
He said, yes, there is huge importance in asking questions because without questions being asked, the answers
There would, yeah.
are never created.
Hmm.
So, yes, ask questions. Continuously ask, continuously ask.
Hmm.
But don't just ask others. He's saying ask yourself. Always check in
Okay.
with yourself. Ask the questions so you can answer.
Hmm. But and what if you don't have an answer?
He says people are impatient.
Okay.
He says sometimes the answer isn't meant to come right away. Sometimes the answer is just it's just there waiting, but sometimes the answers come when people have to experience something to get those answers. But
Okay.
people are impatient and they want the answers now.
Mhm.
He says
Like a
he
quick fix.
a quick fix. He said that he'd like people to sit with their questions for a little longer
Mhm.
and don't expect the answer in the way that they want it to happen. Expect the
Mhm.
answer in the way they need it to happen.
Mhm.
But ask, 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 always question, because that's the only way to get to the truth.
Mhm. Do you does he think that we'll one day run out of questions to answer?
No,
No? Okay.
because there's questions within a question, within a question, within a question.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay.
He says truth is never ending, truth is infinite.
Okay.
So questions are infinite because you'll
Mhm.
never get the whole truth because the
No,
whole
you
truth
won't.
is God and God
Mhm.
only knows the whole truth, he says.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, because there's questions in questions and there when you get an answer, but then you're like, I still have questions on that answer. So I don't think it'll ever stop, and I really do agree with him that it won't.
He says,
Like,
Through the Looking Glass, the Alice in Wonderland story, Through the Looking Glass, was
mhm.
written for a reason because there are rabbit
Mhm.
holes and people
Mhm.
fall down, 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 down.
I love rabbit holes. Rabbit holes are great. I appreciate them. Okay.
He says, because it's
What
not
else?
only questions, it's also
Mhm.
imaginings. It's
Mhm.
also the what if. It's also
Mhm.
all of that. So it's not
Mhm.
only questions, it's also like what would be, what would happen, what if.
Mhm.
So it's never ending.
Mhm.
Life is a pick your own adventure book.
It is. It truly is. Yeah. Because each life is a different, like, pick your own adventure. Like, you could choose a whole other path. Like, it's like you want to go right or you want to go left. And this time you choose, I want to go left.
Mm-hmm.
And then you end up somewhere in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Life is funny like that. Okay. What else do we got? Okay, here's kind of a lower question, like not as intense. I don't know. Maybe it would be intense. I don't know what he's gonna think. But would immortality, in your opinion, in his opinion, would be a gift or a curse? I know this answer. I think it would be a curse, but I want to hear his.
He says his personal perception, depending, it would depend on who you're asking, wouldn't it?
Hmm.
Because if immortality existed for me, I would be unhappy for a very, very long time,
Hmm.
right? So it depends on who you ask. Um, there are places where immortality is real, but that is a very, very, very high, quote unquote, level of existence that humanity won't experience for a very, very long time. Right now, as I'm talking to you now, he
Hmm.
says immortality would not be a good thing.
No, I 100% agree. I agree with that.
Or no, yeah, sorry, mortality is better.
Yeah, because there's how do I say this? With immortality, there's no moving on. There's no do-over, you know? You're stuck with the cards. You're like in every life you're stuck with the cards that you were handed, but at some point you get new cards. And with immortality or immortality, you don't get new cards. You're stuck with like a two of hearts and three of spades. you know.
Yeah. So there's no new experience.
Mhm.
But there's also, like, think of it this way. I died.
Mhm.
I crossed over. I went to heaven, however people want to tell it. I looked at my life. I knew what I could have done differently to have a better
Mhm.
outcome. But
Mhm.
now I have the chance to go back if I ever choose
Mhm.
to try it again in a different way to have a better outcome. But I can only do
Mhm.
that in that way through being mortal.
Mhm.
If I was immortal, I wouldn't be able to see the choices that I made, how they affected my life and the life of other people, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't have learned anything.
I have a question for him. It's kind of a little off topic. But when you do pass on, do you get to look at that storybook? Do you get to like look at the choices you've made and see the ones that you could have made?
Yes,
Okay.
people call it a life review.
Mhm.
I just call it intense therapy.
Oh golly. Uh yeah. So it's like a D&D thing. You get to see what could have happened, what you would have faced, what you have faced. It really is like a storybook, eh?
Look at it this way.
Mhm.
When I got to see the choices that I made, I also got to see the other doors that I could have picked in
Mhm.
my choose your own adventure.
Mhm.
He says, you know how when kids reread the book and they choose all the adventures in the same book just to see what other outcomes there were?
Mhm.
That's what happens in a life review. At least that's what happened for my life review. I was able to
Mhm.
see all of those against the choices that I made.
Didn't it make you frustrated that you didn't pick a choice or the right, quote unquote, right choice?
You would think so. He says, but no, I made the choices that I'd made because that's what I knew to do
Mhm.
in that moment, or that's what I
Mhm.
felt I could do in that moment.
Mhm.
So if you're asking me if I regret any of the choices that I made, I would have to say no.
I would never ask that of you. Mm-mm. No, because I know all our choices are made with how do I say this?
With what we know.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm going to ask you one, and you don't have to answer this, but you can if you want. What would you want to be remembered for, and why? What do you think is something that you should be remembered for?
I would like to be remembered by how much I loved.
Okay.
What I don't want to be remembered for is how I ultimately died
Mhm.
and the struggles I had.
Mhm.
The struggles I had were very much because of how deep my love was, but I was also scared of how deep I loved. And I really did not want to face rejection. So
Mhm.
I turned to things that would hide me away so I didn't have to face rejection. I was scared of rejection because of how much I loved. He says, yes, I made people laugh. Yes, I was part of a great group of people for a long time. But even in that, I felt like I had to hide myself away because I didn't think that they would understand how much I absolutely loved.
Mhm.
That's what I would like to be remembered by, was how intensely I could love. But I don't feel like people could see that in me.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people are focused on the gossip. A lot of the
People
time.
focus on the gossip. They also And I won't be the only one to say this to you if you and your mom choose to talk to more people, but the way somebody died with for people, the way they died is technically how they lived their whole life. So
Hmm.
I died
Yeah.
in a hot tub because of drugs. So I will be remembered as an addict, except for the people that really, really knew me, they would remember my love. But you're
Hmm.
right, it is a world of gossip, and that's the last thing that people remember me by, and so that's what they relate to me.
But they shouldn't, because you were so much more
I was
than
so
that.
much more, but he says people will automatically gravitate to that, just like they did with Michael Jackson,
Hmm.
just like they did with Whitney Houston. Anybody that died from a circumstance that was tragic, that's how they will be remembered.
Hmm. Hmm. Damn. That's all I can say. I do. I
Oh,
apologize.
he says it just got heavy. It just got heavy in here.
My bad. My bad. What's something we could light this shit up with? Mm, let me see. Let's go back to goofy questions for a little bit, if that's okay with him.
Yeah, ask away. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. This is a dumb one. These are all really dumb. But if animals could talk, which ones would be the rudest?
If animals could talk, which one would be the rudest?
In his great opinion.
He's showing me a rat.
Oh no, rats are so nice. Why would you think that? Like a sewer rat, like a
Like
New
a
Yorker,
sewer
like,
rat.
hey, I'm walking here type shit.
Yeah, he's showing me a sewer rat. They would probably be the rudest. Same with people. Sometimes the rudest people are the smallest because they have to make up for something that they feel they don't have.
Dan, you're calling out a lot of people.
He says, so the bigger the animal, they would command more authority, but I don't think the bigger the animal, they would be the rudest. It's usually the small ones.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. You want to hear my opinion?
Hmm.
I think dolphins would be the rudest.
What?
They're mean.
Anything can be mean.
Yeah, but they're just like full on evil.
What? I, Matthew Perry, do not endorse anything that Ireland is saying right now.
Okay, damn. My bad, my bad.
What did you
Okay.
see? He's asking you what you saw that would make you feel that dolphins would be rudest.
They're just like little psychopaths. Like,
He's asking, what did you see on Instagram that made you think that dolphins were psychopaths?
no, this is actual truth. You know what they do to poor little blowfishes?
What?
They puff them up. Okay, so blowfishes emit this really bad toxin that could kill you instantly. It's one of the worst toxins out there. And that's why when you're preparing them, it has to be like you have to prepare them. Like you have to be trained in preparing them, or else you're going to kill a bunch of people. Um, but dolphins make them go all big and stuff and get high off their fumes.
He's like, he says, is that any different than what people do to other people?
No, and that's why people are evil, dolphins are evil, it's all the same.
There's good in everything, he says.
Dolphins are cute though. They make little cute little noises. I think one of the nicest animals are Komodo dragons.
Komodo dragons are very misunderstood beings.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Pause. In intermission time. My computer's low on battery. Give me a second. Okay. Okay. We're back to it. Okay. Uh. Okay. I have a funny one. If you could control jelly, but only jelly, what would you do with that power? Like the substance, you know?
He's laughing. He says, "Where are you getting these questions?"
just answer the questions, man. You don't need to know where I got them. Just
He says he would fill a bathtub full of jelly and he would bathe in jelly.
that's crazy. What type of jelly?
Jello.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. He says all different colors of jello in those cubes. They have to be cut into cubes. He
that's
says, I'm that
crazy.
celebrity that would ask for anybody to move heaven and earth, and I want a bathtub full of jello.
Jello's pretty good. I love Jello, especially lime Jello.
But jelly, there's only one thing to do with jelly is to put it on peanut butter and between two slices of white bread.
Okay, now are you a crunchy peanut butter guy or a smooth peanut butter guy?
Smooth.
Oh, really?
He says, I knew you were going to ask me that. Smooth.
But it's so much texture with the crunchy bits. Okay. How about we ask one more existential crisis of a question and then we'll end it, if that's okay with him.
He's like, we should do this again sometime.
We should. I hope he's having fun. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to be completely honest. I have no idea what I'm doing.
He says nobody knows what they're doing on a Virgin run, and he says he's really, really happy and humbled that he could join us on our first show.
And then when we're rich and famous, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay. Um, hmm. Okay, I don't think I've asked this one before. If I have, call me out. But what's one belief you hold that you've never questioned, but maybe you should?
Loyalty.
Loyalty? Okay,
He
let's get
said
into
it
that.
even before you said the whole thing. He's like, loyalty.
Okay.
He's like, the expectation of, he says, personally, the expectation of me was to be loyal.
Hmm.
But besides family, who I cared very, very deeply for, my family was my everything. I don't necessarily believe that there were individuals that were loyal to me. And he
Okay.
said it was very upsetting.
Of course it would be.
He said loyalty is a must, and it's something that I took very seriously. But when I didn't get it, I would spiral down into um, self-worth issues.
Hmm.
Why not me? What did
Hmm.
I do wrong?
Hmm.
Stuff like that. He says loyalty, absolutely loyalty. There would be no other answer. Loyalty.
Okay. That's a good answer. I feel like that's a good answer. All right. Does he have any questions that he'd like to ask?
He says, no, I've been connecting with Kim for a few months now, and He says, I'm just getting used to this group that have invited me to join. And he says, it's been
Mhm.
fun. It's been a learning opportunity. He says, it's been fun. Ooh, the dog just stepped on
Alright.
the keyboard.
Ooh, I think Dad's home too. All right. I think that's gonna be a wrap.
Okay. He says, I really want to do this again sometime. So hit me up if you ever want to talk again.
Dude, I probably was the worst interviewer you ever had.
No, this was fun. He says, I like it more casual. I like it a lot. This has been fun. I really thank you for this opportunity. He says, I
Of
really
course,
thank
of
you.
course. Next time when I start my own talk show,
We'll
I'll be
see how
there.
much kickback you get for the dolphin comment.
Oh, yeah. People will agree with me. They know what I know. They know. Okay. Anyway,
Thanks, Ireland.
no problem.
Okay. See you soon.
Stop the recording.
Okay. Bye.